everybody, welcome back. We are going to talk about intensity as we get into it. So anytime you post anything on the Instagrams, of course you're getting a snapshot of, a massive picture, and a lot of assumptions come up, and there's like, well, what about getting hit, and what about hand trade-offs, and what about takedowns, and what about his buddy, and all that type of stuff. So we want to talk in this video about isolating drills, the difference between drilling, training, and testing, or learning, training, and testing, meaningful ways, the way that we approach building intensity, which intensity can be viewed as like speed, increase in power, can also be increase of variables. So to make things more stressful or make things more intense, negation knowledge doesn't always mean going faster and harder. Sometimes it simply means adding more things I have to process and think about. And then again, like looking at things for what they are and being able to isolate them, right? So the first thing, if we look at the phases of how we like to teach knife control concepts and basics around that, everything starts static, non-competitive, completely cooperative from the bad guy in any way, shape, or form. So let's take elements of the circle flow, for instance, in our system. Let's say we start out to the outside and the front. Well, if I've never done a 2-on-1 before, never done a baseball bat grip, the last place I want to go as far as learning how to do a baseball bat grip is like, oh, have the guy try to murder me as absolutely hard and as fast as possible. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to get anything out of that drill in any way, shape, or form. I have to learn the position first. So we start static, completely cooperative. Okay, here's my frontside 2-on-1 baseball bat grip. Okay, and then we'll add a little bit of energy. First thing I need to know is, can I anchor my head? Do I understand the relationship between my head and my hips? And can I hold and support this position and make it feel, pretty shitty for the guy I'm working with? Then we can explore like different grips, like we like to work around with our X grip position, or maybe it's this reverse position out to the outside here, whatever it is. Static first. I've got to feel the position. Can I even do the thing? Once I do the thing, we want to add a little bit of energy. First place we start is usually as pushes and pulls. And so Mike's just going to kind of move around very loosely. And can I stay with pressure on his arm and on his limb and keep my head in good position with a little bit of movement, right? So then that would be what we refer to as choreographed energy. We do very low choreographed energy. I know he's not stabbing me. I know all that he's going to do. What is he going to do? He's going to move his feet around forward and backward. He's going to move the knife around forward and backward, very simply. Okay? We can take that same exact ideology and then we can make it a lot more intense, right? So he starts moving around a little bit faster, there's a little bit extra energy, there's a little bit more up and down, pushing, pulling. And then again, okay, cool, still choreographed. I know he's not smacking me yet, snapping me to the floor. I know he's just moving his feet and he's gonna move his arm in and out. It's faster, right? So that's a meaningful increase of intensity. Then you can see where we can go with this. We can start implementing the other hand, we can start implementing transitions, all that type of stuff. The way we look at it is static first, learning. You're learning a position. Once you've learned the position, you show decent competency, like 80% competency in the ability to do that drill. Then we add a layer of intensity. That first layer is a change. It's a new variable. The variable is movement. Movement done very slow. If you show 80% competency in that, then we go up to increased energy, increased energy, increased energy. Always chasing that idea of winning more than we're losing, also making sure we're losing a little bit. That's where we like to be. That's like our sweet spot. Once we do that, if we add another layer or another variable, we bring the energy back down. Because the increase of intensity is actually now this new variable. Now I have to split my differences between different positions. So we can run the same idea from different, okay, cool, now we're doing outside 2-on-1. Okay, here's my outside 2-on-1, we start static, then he starts moving around, then he starts moving around a lot. I can do the same exact thing for the back position, you get the back position, okay? Well, the next variable we can add in, let's say we're transitioning. So now I need to go from an outside 2-on-1 or a frontside 2-on-1 to an outside 2-on-1. That in and of itself is a brand new drill, it's a brand new transition. I need to meld two things together in the transition between them. Once we understand that, now all of a sudden Mike can move around a little bit. Hey, look at that. Oh my gosh, and I still need to be able to find the energy to go into it. Okay, that's an elevation of intensity. Then we pick up the speed, pick up the speed. Okay, now all of a sudden we add another variable. Well, we add another variable, what do? Bring the intensity level back down, or at least the speed of things back down. Now Mike can start posting on my head, he can start grabbing my shirt, all that type of stuff. And now I've got to be able to make that transition from the outside, coming back into here. Again, isolating, whatever that drill is. We're using the idea of like front side to outside going. but there's another layer of intensity in that. It starts off very static, right? He's not smacking me around or anything. He's just kind of posting on my shoulder. How does that feel? How does that change the way the energy moves and flows? Cool. Pick up the intensity, pick up the intensity. Okay, cool. Now we add another layer. Okay, oh shit. Now Mike can start, let's go open palm if we're not wearing gloves. If we've got gloves, then fucking smack each other around. If you've got headgear, go for it. Now Mike can grab post and he can start hitting me, right? Open palm, he's gonna smack me in the head, smack me in the ribs. But now I'm working through that position, I'm mitigating, making sure I understand that strikes are a real thing. We start slow and light. If that's going really well, 80%, go more intensity, more intensity, more intensity. Intensity could be gloves on and now he's able to pop me. Intensity could be putting on a helmet and now he's really able to pop me, right? So we're adding layers, adding layers. Another layer of intensity could be hand switches. Now I'm trying to go from the front to the outside, and while that's happening, all of a sudden he starts grabbing it. Oh shit, oh look at that, I mitigated that one, so then maybe I can get back out to the outside. And then all of a sudden now we're adding another layer of intensity, which is he can grab the shirt, he can post on my head, he can hit me, and he can hand switch, and now I've got to be able to trace and pull and move and go for all those type of things. So we get a lot of questions on the Instagram page, especially. It's like they watch a 2 or 3 minute section of a seminar and go, what if? We address it. The thing you've got to remember is I've got to learn how to do a thing well before I can execute it at a higher level of intensity. So I've got to learn this first. Okay, this is what this feels like. I can do this thing. I understand grip mechanics. I understand doing this against static. Then we add a slight layer. Once that looks good, add a slight layer, add a slight layer, slight. Before you go, well, frontside 2-on-1 is worthless. He'll just pound you in the head with your left hand. You have to remember, I can't address the knife or the punch if I don't know even how to control the knife to start with, or if I don't know how to block a punch to start with, or if I don't know how to feel energy to start with. So we start static, very little energy, if any. Then we slowly increase. That's why training is a long game, right? You're not gonna take somebody day 1 or shit, even month 12, and go, okay, I've got a blade, we're gonna go 100%, and you're gonna do excellent at it, no matter what. So we wanna learn about adding intensity. We can add intensity just through the weapon, right? We can start our drills with no weapon. Can you do an outside 2-on-1, frontside 2-on-1 back position without a blade? And then we put a very obvious trainer. It's a well-rounded, tiny little wooden one. And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't realize that during this, my arm was passing through the blade, so now I've got to adjust that position now. And then we can increase intensity by giving them a big shiny metal knife that's a lot longer, and then all of a sudden when you're passing the blade back and forth, feeling that blade, you're like, oh shit, well that's different. And that changes the intensity. It changes the way my brain processes it, right? All while we can still be adding pushes, pulls, grabs, all that type of stuff. Then, you really want to add some intensity, you buy yourself a shock knife. Right? And now you start doing your flow drills against the shock knife where he can rear back and give you a good old zap and all that type of stuff. To get to this, you gotta crawl, then you gotta walk, then you gotta run, then you gotta sprint, and then you gotta sprint with a 20-pound pack on, and then you gotta sprint with a 20-pound pack on while people are trying to hit you in the head. It's crazy talk. But you gotta move through drills and actually learn how to do things well before you can really drive intensity, if you're gonna learn meaningfully and if you're gonna absorb the information. So keep that in mind. Like, we address all of these things. It takes time to get into that. And if you spend time focusing on the fundamentals and you learn how to ramp things up in a really meaningful manner, whew, man, the places you can take it. And then you can build on those skills and you can execute them at higher levels. So fun little talk on A, understanding what you're seeing on Instagram, B, understanding meaningful increase in intensity, and then C, understanding to decipher the difference between learning a skill, which is something you've never done, so now you're trying to pick up some data. Once you understand the data, then there's training or practicing, which is really absorbing the data. Remember, learning is behavior change, not awareness. Oh, I'm aware of that technique. Well, that's different. You've drilled the technique enough that your body, your thought, everything changes in it. That's real learning. So I learn a skill, I train and practice a skill to create behavior change, and then I test a skill. So if Mike and I were to get together and we were to pull out the shock knife and we were to put on high gear helmets and chest plates and we were to go full speed scenario, verbalization, knife coming out, all that type of stuff, that is testing, okay? You may be picking up on data, which you could consider learning, but there's no practice in that. That is execution. It's a test. Hey, cool. This went right. This went horribly wrong. Now I know what I need to go back and focus on. I keep fucking up the outside 2-on-1. I should go back and drill the outside 2-on-1. I keep trying to transition to crossbody seatbelt, and I keep missing crossbody seatbelt. Maybe we're doing force on force, and it's like I tried to get to my gun, and I fumbled the draw every time. Testing allows you to analyze your ability to make decisions and execute on things, and then really focuses on what you need to then pull out and micro drill at the end of it. So, fun, long-winded explanation, or I should say appropriately winded explanation of learning, how to learn properly, and understanding the mechanics as far as things go. So, have some fun with that. Play around with the way you check intensity. Right? Remember, it can be speed, it can be power, and it can be variables. Right? Variables are one that people, in my opinion, my experience, underestimate long term. So check it out, have some fun, stab your buddies, try not to get stabbed, all that type of fun stuff, and we'll see you next time. Peace.